great voices in our town who has worked both as a voice when he was in the private sector and now in the public sector, and brings a lot of wealth to this position. Tom?
Happy day. I'm going to be brief because, wow, you have been here a long time. And I got to follow an incredible group of speakers with such challenges that I know we all deal with on a daily basis, and challenges that need to be handled in some shape, manner, or form. I'm very, very pleased, however, to be here with our chairperson, Deb Palmer-George, some of our commissioners that are here today, the mayor's office in Shawneewoy, thank you. It was wonderful to follow the mayor today and hear what he had to say in that regard. I hope today what I'll do is leave you with three thoughts, because there were so many wonderful thoughts brought to the table today. But hopefully, maybe perhaps next year at this time, we're going to be able to look at these three thoughts and say, wow, we've accomplished that. We've moved on from that. But before I do that, I would like to first, Veronica was asked a question as to whether or not new arrivals, the undocumented, pay taxes. And I'm here to say that they do pay taxes. And as a matter of fact, the statistic is that the average undocumented worker in the United States today pays more taxes than any American worker being paid the same hourly wage. And it's pretty simple math, and there's a couple studies out there. The state of Tennessee did, the state of Tennessee did do a study on that, by the way. But the state of Texas did a great study on that. And the University of North Carolina also did a study on that. And simply put, about 70% of the undocumented folks in the United States today are paid by check. So taxes, in most cases, are automatically taken out. Most undocumented folks, only about 40% of the undocumented folks actually file for a tax return and are actually due taxes, unlike the young lady that was up here today. So when you look at that, the average is certainly far and above. They are paying more than their appropriate share, not to mention sales taxes, apartment taxes, and things similar. But that's not why I'm here. That's one of the reasons I'm here. Hiring for tomorrow is one of the things that has intrigued me, especially over the last year. As the demographics change in any community, especially here in the state of Tennessee, I had the opportunity to go up to New York through Mayor Bloomberg and discuss what they're doing correct in immigration and things similar. And what I found, I was sort of disappointed in that when you think of New York, you think of how positive that is and how they've been able to deal with immigration in such great ways, and they have. But one of the ways they haven't been able to deal with it is institutionally, whether it be in certain departments within the city or the state. So if you look at certain departments, they're not hiring, and I think we have a perfect example here in Nashville, which I'll get to in a moment, where they're not hiring to what the community is. So if there are new arrivals, and the example in New York was, it was in Queens, and in this particular, it was Astoria, Queens to be exact, because my grandmother used to live there. And Astoria, Queens now has the largest Chinese population outside of mainland China, which I didn't know, and that was pretty interesting as we were going on a tour. And they had a fire there a few weeks earlier, and a few people passed away in an apartment building. And they passed away because none of the firemen spoke Chinese. And they couldn't use the evacuation. And it ended up there was only 2 people of Chinese descent that worked for the fire department in that particular area. But we just had DA's election here in Nashville. And that DA, our new DA, Glenn Funk, made it part, he wanted to see a more diverse outlook on who are the assistant DAs. And here in Nashville, currently, and it's been better, it just happens to be, we're in a bad place at the moment, but 58 of the 60 assistant DAs were white, 2 were black, and I forgot how many women, but neither here nor there, it's certainly not representative of the people they're prosecuting. And I think we have to be very, very careful that as our population changes, that we all keep up with it, both in the public sector and in the private sector. And in the private sector, we use things like, well, I just can't find them. And that's disturbing to me because I've been in the private sector. If you can't find them, you better figure out a way to find somebody, all right? And you can. There are a lot of different ways we can achieve this, and I could spend about 9.5 hours on that, but I do think if we leave here with that talking point of we have to hire for what our community is going to be tomorrow. If we start today, it's too late. I can tell you it's too late. Because when you look at Nashville, and you heard some of those, 25% of the children entering Nashville public schools today are Latinos. How many Latino teachers do we have? I don't know that figure. But we better start looking at it. We should look at it statewide. Okay, I wasn't going to talk long, and here I am. The second is, you heard this morning from Pat Shea, who is the executive director of the YWCA, and I happen to be a proud male board member. Yay. And as a proud male board member, former judge, Peter McDonald and I are heading up a program, co-chairing Engaging Men. I know you've heard about that today. For a guy who thought he knew a lot about this community, wow, I didn't know a lot about this community. When we're 6th in the nation in men killing women, if that doesn't bring tears to your eyes, what does? When we have more churches and religious institutions per capita than almost any other city in the country or state, and you think about that happening, we need to gather together and figure this out, and we're going to do that through Engaging Men, and we hope we'll be able to spread that out throughout the state and beyond, because we're going to involve business and the clergy and coaches, and we need to make this happen, and we would certainly appreciate your help in helping us make that happen. I could talk about that again for a year and a day, but that's another thought that we need to think about as we move on here and we talk about what is human rights and human relations. Dreamers, in-state tuition, DACA students. We heard from Veronica earlier today, and I got to tell you, for an undocumented person to get up here and testify today was pretty impressive, and being in this country for 10, 11 years and speaking English the way she did is something else. And I'm an older white guy, you know what I mean? But for me to see that is pretty impressive, all right? And scary, if I were to be in her shoes. But the state did a good thing this year. The state legislature did. And I know that's hard to say sometimes. But they did a really great thing this year in allowing the children, the U.S. citizen children of the undocumented in-state tuition. All right? And I know that's hard to believe, that we didn't allow the U.S. citizen children of undocumented folks in-state tuition because I guess we were punishing them for the sins of their parents. But now if we look at DACA students, or dreamers, or semi-dreamers, or children, and we had this one thing, this wonderful young lady who just, you know, from the cradle to jail, and you look at that, and you look at the statistics of what happens with the Latino population in the United States today, and you look at opportunity, and you look at past errors, because God only knows we've had them. The average jail rate, males between 17 and 47, white is about 6.2%, depending on where you are. Black is about 12.3%, 2%, same age range. Right? Latinos, first generation documented or undocumented, first generation, it's about 5%. So despite people saying they're filling our jails, they're doing this, they're doing that, it's only about 5%. The problem comes in the second generation. It jumps to about 8.4%. And by the third generation, shame on us, it's over 13%. We need to educate children as they're coming out of our public schools and private schools and give them an opportunity to do the right thing. They want to, it's the right thing to do, and that's what we should be doing. And that's about it. How's those three thoughts? I'm open for questions. So happy.
Thank you for your ad lib on the tax question. My point is, and I'm from Memphis, we need those sales tax dollars that our undocumented folks in our town are turning. And so I get so upset when I hear people say, well, they get all these services and they don't pay taxes. You added the point that they're not filing for refunds, which is another argument for me, thank you.
Only 40% of them.
But I've always been concerned about, how can we say that the wheels of commerce are turning because we got folks who buy things and they pay sales
and
tax,
here
which in Tennessee is high as New York's, and da, 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 da.
And here in Middle Tennessee, Nashville particularly, 40% of the new businesses are started by new arrivals. That 40%, so let's give everybody an opportunity.
I wanted to ask about, you talked about taking this engaging in program across the state. Who are you going to connect with throughout the state to?
We're still working on those details, thank you. We've had some great gatherings so far, some great public interest, more than great public interest. People have really said, oh my God, I didn't know that. When 1 in 4, oh my God, when 1 in 4 ladies, young ladies, are assaulted in some shape, manner, or form. Oh my God, I have a granddaughter who's 8.5 months old, and I think about that and I go, it takes your breath away. All right, I had 2 boys, and it still takes my breath away. So, yes, we're working on that. You'll be hearing more, and by this time next year, we'll have that plan rolled out for you.
I think they're working with coaches.
We are. We have a great. We're working with coaches currently. We're working with Clergy for Tolerance, which is an organization here in Middle Tennessee. We have 284 or so clergy folks of all denominations. And we're hoping to say, when someone comes to you and says, I'm having trouble in my marital life, we don't say, what did you do wrong? We say, how can we help, and where can I help you? So.
Well, I think it would be a great idea to connect, and I'm sure you will, with colleges and universities and their programs too.
We are working with that. We've done things already at TSU and Vanderbilt University, and we're going to expand upon that.
Good.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.